Here we go.
You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, we're going to keep it busy later on today. Why does this sound so weird over here right now? That's odd. Is this not working? Hold on. This is just me. I'm just going to talk. The whole side of this board sounds weird. Why is that? I know I'm on the air right now, right?
So you sound fine to me.
There is zero volume going on over here. None.
Ooh, that's not good.
And for a guy that's nearly deaf, this is problematic. There is close to zero volume on either one of these over here.
Is it your headphones or those that have they
Well,
been
they're
working
crappy.
normally?
They're equally as crappy as this, but yeah, there's zero volume going on here.
All right.
Huh. So talk loud when you call at 239-1070, and hopefully I can hear you today. Make sure you have Charles Arbuckle. Make sure you have Kevin Bowen talk very loud. This sounds weird right here. It's not right. Not like it was at all yesterday. Hey, now that we've sorted that out, thank you for joining the show. Tomorrow we're going to be at Colts camp. And it is a late night practice. I shouldn't say late night. It's not a late night. It's an evening get-together, so we'll be up there for that in the afternoon. My first venture up there. Cannot wait to hang. Wait to be. A lot of you are going to hang out with me for a little bit, so we should do that. Coming up tomorrow. Should be one hell of a time. All right, over the course of the show today, I mentioned the guest list already, and over the course of the show, we'll be talking about a lot of things, certainly regarding the Colts as we move along. I know this is like a week deep now, and it starts to get a bit monotonous, if it wasn't already that, because we are still going over a lot of the stuff that we have gone over within the past handful of years. And it just kind of wears you out. I completely understand. It's funny. I was talking to some dudes I was playing hoop with last night, and they say, hey, there's more going on than just a quarterback battle. And I understand that. And yesterday with Joel A. Erickson, we took a venture into doing some other things and talking some other things. The problem is you have to treat that as you try to treat as well. Like, for example, your favorite radio station, maybe not so much today, but back in the day, and maybe still today. Musically speaking, you play the hits. Like on Saturday night, I play the hits that you want. I play what you want. It's for you. That is really the lone facet of radio that no longer exists. Everything else is just kind of bullcrap, seriously, across the board. And it's their own damn fault. Because everybody half-asses it. You don't do the job. And you just say, you put your hands up and say, well, you know what? If they can get this music, they can get their own anywhere they want. And you just kind of quit. Well, that's not what we do. But in hit radio, you do make sure that you roll the hits. And that is, to a degree, what we're talking about with the quarterback position here. It is something that's not going to go away, and this won't go away even with the start of the season. It is still going to be a massive debate. And honestly, you haven't gone through this since Phillip Rivers. You had that one season with Phillip Rivers. That was pretty damn decent, but you haven't gone through this since. It has been the same old discussion about this guy's better than the other guy, and there's not been any solid footing. I'd make the argument, really the best quarterbacking season was probably that of Carson Wentz. It just ended craptacularly, where he barely got a ride home. But other than that, these are all the same ongoing conversations that we have had for years. So in answering those I was hooping with last night, it's not really much you can do about it. You can spread the wealth to other things going on like the Fever later on tonight, which you got an interesting matchup to say the least. Or, this time of year, you're going to talk about other camps, other practices, other teams within the AFC South, maybe hot buttons in the NFL, because there are people out there that are excited the NFL's back. Most of the time, though, you get excited, and then you watch the Hall of Fame game, and about the same time the Hall of Fame game airs, about the second quarter, you go, all right, well, that's it. And then you wait on the start of the season. Now, your favorite team, it's a little bit different because you do want to see how somebody is playing, and especially with the quarterback position. So we always double back to that. When I was talking to Joel yesterday, it was incredibly refreshing to me because we went a variety of places. We had talked about Tyler Warren and what Tyler Warren hopefully can be as a rookie, the expectations as a rookie with a position that simply put we haven't seen. Around here it's either, well, he's a really good blocker or he does have good hands, but it's never been what has been described as everything. And then the addition that he brings to the table of being a weapon. Now, part of talking about things in the preseason or in training camp, oftentimes those hot topics that you bring up fade away during the season. I was curious about that. All these different ways and measures and means in which the rookie can be utilized. I was kind of wondering if maybe this all fades away, or are they going to utilize that in the fashion in which we're talking about right now? Those, I think, are decent questions and some things we haven't talked about. So that was refreshing with Joel yesterday. Talking about other things other than the quarterback was certainly refreshing because I know it does wear you out. But at the end, we're always going to go and double back because that is, and really until further notice, until something is found, until somebody is consistent, and until things finally happen positively at that position, there's really nowhere else to go. Nothing else really matters. Shout out to Metallica. Nothing else does until that either is solidified and works its way out, or it doesn't, and you start new altogether coming up next year. So those of you, if you're like the dudes I hooped with last night and go, yeah, this whole quarterback stuff, it wears me out, there's a reason behind it. But I would agree with you. Now, we were talking yesterday about, why we don't see a little bit of everything. Why is it so much Richardson over Jones? And, hey, Richardson's having a great camp here, and the last 2 days have been great. It's because mostly everybody wants to see, everybody knows if he doesn't make it, if he's not the starter in week number 1, then it's a mess. And why are we even messing with it? So that's always going to be the edge, and also because of his level of gifts, athletically speaking. So many hope that it transitions into something that is real one of these days. It just hasn't yet. It's been in spurts here or there, but hasn't been anything consistently. And that's what you're hoping. So I'll be up there coming up tomorrow and doing the same thing. Yeah, if you were wondering, DeForest Buckner is going to join me coming up tomorrow. I just got that from Matt Conti. I will say this. I was with Hammer and Nigel. We have a little pre-show meeting when we're both in the building daily, and they were listening in the hallway to me and Jake being conversational about the disappointment that I have, in the Fever or in Pacer Sports Entertainment, really in general. I mean, here you have somebody that is, as you can tell, right, because I tell you every day, that is a thorough lover of basketball. And listen, not daily, and I'm not suggesting that I am important at anything whatsoever, but keep your product going. And it doesn't have to be Caitlin Clark. I mean, keep people going. Get your Fever players on. Let's hear their stories. And the same thing with the pace. Don't be a lazy ass about it. Get back with James. I mean, even if you say no, which normally you do, and I know that doesn't matter to you guys. I mean, the content we have hopefully still is going to be appealing to you. But I can tell you this sitting here right now, this is not going to end well. This is not going to end well. You want to, and I've said this all along, this had the opportunity, and still does, to be a golden era, even with all that's transpired, even with the Caitlin Clark injuries, even with not winning the NBA championship. But look, the season that you had, and you lose Tyrese Halliburton. Man, this is going to be a perfect Pacers season to see if what we have talked about with this team orientation and what we love about it actually does work and does matter. And I'm not going to sit here and suggest that it's, having your cake or eating it too, or, whatever happens, because you're still supposed to win. I'm going to be disappointed if they're not decently good. I don't know how to really describe it. I say decently good. I don't know how I'm going to be able to explain it if they're not competitive. I expect them to be competitive. I expect them to back up what I have said. But man, this needs to be discussed, and you have the perfect outlets right here to do so. You have dynamic personalities that can do it, and you choose not to, and I think it's dumb as hell. And I'm always going to give credit to the Colts. I sit here all the time. All I do is rip these dudes. All the time. But you know what? They still work with you. And hell, I host their pregame show. It is incredible. So as much as we get off on the Colts for being disappointing, I will say this. They keep it as professional as possible, and that's a job well done. Because they can shut me out immediately. In a second. By the way, James, there is zero way these headphones are. Is anybody going to do anything about it? I'm just going to sit here with these headphones not working all day.
We might be able to figure something out
cool.
during the break.
Are we going to figure something out during the break? Because it'd be good, because this is not working. I don't know if it's operator error over here, but I've tried 2 headphone jacks, and it's basically me and my voice right here. I can hear you a little bit.
Are there any knobs on that side?
No, there's like 3. There's 2 knobs and me sitting right here. So 3 knobs all together. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'll hop over there during the break.
Good. Oh, really?
I'll
really?
take a look.
Maybe there's some wires that are crossed here. But it's not right. I do notice we have like 19 different headphones right here. That's pretty sweet. I think the first time ever.
We got plenty of options to choose from.
That's the first time ever. 19 different headphones. But no, seriously, with the Colts in mind, that's something that you don't always see. And I will always give Matt Conti and those credit for doing that, because they could say, hey, man, this guy's a loudmouth. Shut up. All you ever do is criticize. But I think for the most part, it's recognized that when we criticize, it's the truth and there's nothing personal in it. And I never want it to be personal, but I would like to see Pacer Sports Entertainment maybe utilize what they have right now. I mean, you're getting ready to go into a time when really this is not going to matter as much as it once did. And you've missed out already on the time when there's really nothing else going on. So that's a head scratcher to me. But I'm sure somebody down there could tell me as to the reason why they end up taking that tact, but I would completely disagree with it, 100%. And we were mentioning this in studio. Jake does a great job every Tuesday of having Stephanie White on, and what happens is you have a relationship, you know one another, and that's good. That is so important in doing this job. It's why Matt Painter always comes on here. We don't talk all the time, but he feels comfortable enough in coming on here, and that's why that works. And you have a level of important with prior relationships, and in this case for our station, it's good that she comes on with Jake. I think mostly every Tuesday, because you do need that word out. I would love to hear a little bit more about, we had Lexi on once upon a time on the training table because one of the trainers actually heard me talking about it, and she came up. It was awesome. I love hearing about these personalities. Some Colts players I had on last week. Tyquan Lewis had not been on the show before. I had zero idea his love for cars. This is the time of year where you learn a little bit more, a little bit deeper in depth and background with some of these guys. And then during the season when you have them on, we'll talk X's and O's and all that crap. But hell, this is a great time to be able to work a little personality in. A job well done by the Colts. Right there, for sure. Speaking of the Fever and the Mercury, DeWanna Bonner game. That should be interesting coming up later on tonight at 7 o'clock. I'm assuming she is active in playing. But the Mercury and the Fever 2 games above 500, matchups tonight at 7 o'clock. That is downtown at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Should be fun, a great environment, and hopefully one of these days relatively soon, once she's healthy, again, Caitlin Clark returns, and you're going to see a little bit more of what you expect out of this team. But I will say this, last time out, what you did is you watched them do what they needed to do. And that was take care of a team that really, full strength or not, was ready to be taken care of. So that part's good. Mercury, Fever, later on tonight. Eddie Garrison, I'm assuming, is going to have your pregame coverage, and that should be good to go. So we can hit that a little bit later on, too. I know Kevin Bowen's going to join us. Some of the other interesting storylines going on as far as Colts camp is concerned. Got that coming up. And we got Charles Arbuckle. Charles Arbuckle, the former Colts tight end, is going to join us a little bit later. We will discuss the Colts and maybe work in a little college football because we're not too far away from that as well. If you missed Kyle Neddenrip yesterday, I thought it was perfect because we're still far enough away from the start of the high school football season, but inching closer to start the conversation for the first time. I mentioned last week, Phil Steele came on, and that always ushers in the football season, collegiately speaking. Because it really doesn't start until Phil Steele comes on the show. He joined us on Friday and was absolutely fantastic. And at high school-wise, Kyle came on yesterday, talked about what you expect, because I know a lot of you started back to school with your kids. I shouldn't say you went back to school with your kids, but your kids started school today, some tomorrow, maybe some early next week. But here we go. It is that time of year. And then you're going to have all this high school, collegiate, NFL, and some of this other stuff is going to be put on the back burner. Now, I know I'm not very bright. I know what I don't know, but I've been around here and doing this for 25 years, and I do recognize some things that would work for you and some that don't. So that's not as much being critical as it is, well, here's my advice on how to handle things and take advantage of things, especially when your star is out better than what you do. But who am I, right? Because I don't do the gig? But I'm assuming I probably could. 25 years, you'll learn a little bit of something just by accident, right? Just kind of fall into it accidentally. So that is something I think sometimes can get lost in it. Sometimes the whole critique of a team, as I mentioned with the Colts, sometimes it gets lost. I mean, you got to talk about exactly what is going on, but that doesn't mean you hold a personal vendetta or, an axe to grind against a team. You're just being honest. So as we sit here right now, I'll just be honest with you about that, as always. Colts conversation coming up, and I'll try to steer it a little bit more clear of the quarterback battle. Maybe a little bit more on the secondary. One thing that occurs to me is we haven't talked hardly at all about a major important asset, and that is, what are you going to get off the edge? What are you going to get in consistent quarterback pressure? What are we going to see out of Leatu Latu in year number 2? Because you lock up for the foreseeable future Bernard Ryman, and you know about the quarterback battle in that situation. But one of the other pillars of having a really good or a higher level NFL team is being able to disrupt the offense, and in particular the quarterback, which is putting pressure on the quarterback. The Colts have had guys that have been decent, but I think we all understand that decent is not good enough. How has it looked up front defensively? I don't even know if we have spent too much time talking about it. We will with Kev coming up a little bit later on. Charles Arbuckle also coming up a little bit later on. Quick break. We shall return. James, you got this figured out over here? Because I can't hear a damn thing.
I'll hop over there during the break.
James is going to come over here and jack with this and see if he can fix it. We need to put up something here on social media's platform X here. Can James fix it?
Run a poll?
Yes or no? Do we have a poll here?
I can put one up if you want.
Can James fix it? Like, I hit it like Arthur Fonzarelli might right there, but it doesn't help. You know when the Fonz hits something and all of a sudden it just fires up and starts?
Mm-hmm. You don't have the magic touch over there?
I don't think I have the magic touch over here. I can tell you one thing, though. I can't hear anything. No doubt. I can't hear anything anyway, so I'm going to have it cranked, as you well know. Mm-hmm. And this, as they say, ain't it right here. Quick break. We'll come back to stream the app. It's HD Radio, the AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. As I mentioned, DeForest Buckner joins us on the show coming up tomorrow. You know, we have a common bond, a common thread. So DeForest, Scott Levy, who works with my yard with his crew landscaping, also landscapes DeForest yard.
There you go.
So, yes.
Y'all are best friends now.
We're all buddies. We're buddies. Yeah, that's Sundown Gardens in Westfield right there, by the way. And Miss M's home and garden with Scott, who is spectacular. Can you imagine what it takes to make anything around me look good? Shout out to Fulton, by the way, who just put up, can James fix it? Yes or no? Now, Fulton, unfortunately, I think in this poll you put, can James fix it? And yes or no on the same line. I love it. Man, you guys are 100% awesome. All right, quick one. We'll come back. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Do not go anywhere. The stream, the app, it's HD Radio. Bowen, Arbuckle, and more coming up. And your Haras Hoosier Park race of the day today. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
It's in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I am not used to see. It's just really hollow. My voice doesn't come through here at all. It's like I don't even need these. I got Cam, the engineer, trying to figure out things. We like to do things on the fly during the show because that's the only way you can figure it out in here. The Reds acquired Ke'Bryan Hayes in a trade with the Pirates earlier today. If you've watched the Reds the past two games, it has been massively disappointing against the Dodgers. Probably as disappointing as Cubs fans feel the first two games in their series of the Brewers have been. Now, look this up, would you please, James? Is Ke'Bryan Hayes the son of former Phillies third baseman Charlie Hayes? I guess I should say Phillies and Yankees third baseman Charlie Hayes. So you're going for what has been described by Jeff Passan, not so much as anybody with significant offense, but somebody that is defensively oriented. Yes.
He is the son of Charlie Hayes.
Charlie Hayes, Ke'Bryan Hayes. My friend Greg says Nick Kroll is the worst general manager in sports. There's a long line for that, by the way. But I can't disagree with it. Just more of the same stuff that really doesn't help whatsoever. It's kind of what it's all about. But the Reds do make a deal today, if that matters to you. Reds and Dodgers, I believe Ohtani gets the ball coming up later on tonight in Cincinnati for that one. Last night it was like somebody pulled out the rug beneath Reds fans. Was it not? But it was one of those things where you kind of knew it was coming. You just guessed it was coming. And it did. It is Ohtani versus Martinez coming up later on tonight. In fact, Cubs and Brewers this afternoon, bottom of 5, Cubs 5, Brewers 2. So the Cubs trying to salvage a game in Milwaukee. 5-2 advantage, bottom of 5 against the Brewers in Milwaukee. A lot of other action going on in Major League Baseball this afternoon as well. JMV, this is from Jeff. We as Pacer fans just want competitive basketball. I believe you're going to get competitive basketball. I don't mind the rest of the world writing off this team. I think it actually helps. Now, I would ask why, and it would surprise me if it's Pacer fans that think that way. But I fully expect this Pacer team to be highly competitive this year. Adam writes this, JMV, I heard you talking a little bit earlier, not a huge fan of what ifs, but what if the Colts still had Carson Wentz? Do you think they would have made the playoffs over the past 2 or 3 years? You know, you look back on his season, it ended in a disaster, but there were times, you go back 2 weeks prior to just the worst ending of all time. You know, that was a Raiders game here, and that was the Jacksonville game on the road. But that Arizona game on, was it Christmas Day evening or Christmas Eve? I can't remember. It was over the holiday. That was like a crowning achievement. That's one of those games that you're going to remember, even through all these disappointing times, that actually provided some excitement for you. They got you juiced. And then everything fell through. And then, you know, obviously once that happened in Jacksonville, the late Jim Irsay knew he wanted to go a different direction and found a different direction to go. And that is basically called spinning your wheels, and that's what the Colts have been doing. But they're, in large part, in that season, which was odd to say the least, but in that season, that was a moment. And you can make an argument that was as good a moment as anything we've seen around here in a minute, that game in Arizona. So, yeah, the what-if thing's tough because I don't think he was talented enough or had enough talent around him. But as far as playing the position, you know, who around here has played the position better since Phillip Rivers? Gardner Minshew play it better? Richardson hasn't played it better. Flacco play it better. I'm still kind of waiting on Daniel Jones. So you can make, I think, an argument if you want to make an argument there. JMV, I heard you talking a little bit earlier, too. Should be mandated that all schools open up after Labor Day and end before Memorial Day. The problem is that too many folks dig the time off in between. The 2 weeks in the fall, the 2 weeks in Christmas, and the 2 weeks of spring break. It may only be a week of the fall now, but I think some have 2 weeks in the fall. I think for the most part, everybody digs, and in the fall that you're going to have a getaway someplace, much like you do in the spring. And I've said this before, it is odd to me, and I couldn't do it. There's zero way that you could get me to go back to school this early when I said this early, I would have picketed. No. I thought we went back early if we went back August the 20th. But it's what everybody is used to right now, this particular calendar, and it's just not the same for us. You get used to a lot of different things, a lot of different elements that maybe right now you're thinking there's zero way. But I certainly would buy it, and it's weird. Like, my daughter goes back tomorrow. That seems incredibly early. Just seems wrong. Going back in July just seems wrong. Like, once you hit August, all right. But July, not so much. JMV, I heard you on in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada this morning. What sparked that interest? Well, Kevin Carius, who I believe hosts the show in the morning at Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, he's a good dude. He let me ask him about Canadian beer. And I kind of wondered whether or not Canadian beer is like here where if you can easily get it, it's not a big deal, and I'm assuming so. Because our good friend Todd Meyer, the executive producer of our station, went to Michigan and was kind enough to bring back a case of Labatt's Blue Light in bottles, of which it's a rarity around here. And I thought that was a big deal, and I think, Todd, thank you very much for doing that, Todd. It was great. In Canada, they go, you know what? They've been producing that for 200 years, and we don't even drink it. Made sense. But they let me ask the beer question. I was digging it. I would have picketed in line if they would have tried to send me back to school in July. No way. Could not have it. A lot of activity, at least rumor-wise, happening in the Major League Baseball trade deadline, and you've got activity going on this afternoon, too, including the Cubs and the Brewers. We'll follow that game for you, too. The Mercury and the Fever coming up later on tonight. Kevin Bowen, 4 o'clock, right, for us today? Is that Kevin at 4? Correct? Kev's going to join us at 4. You have a night practice coming up tomorrow night. Hopefully I'm going to see all of you up there. What is that, 8 o'clock tomorrow night, I believe? Now, I don't know how that's going to work for me. Am I going to be sitting out there beneath a tent by myself, I think, for about 3 hours tomorrow? That's the way that it sounds. It's all good. DeForest Buckner will join me on the show coming up tomorrow, but it should be fun as hell. It's my first venture up there. I think the first of 2. I've got one tomorrow, and then I believe I have one coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow.
So you've got one tomorrow, then you actually have one Monday the 11th, and then Thursday the 14th.
Gotcha. So I have 2 after this. The 11th and the 14th. I do like going up there. I like going up there because every time, and I mean within like a week or 2 apart, every time I go to Westfield, there's like something new up there. And I believe if I'm going to go to Westfield tomorrow, that is going to necessitate a stop at Joe's Grill in Westfield on the way home. If anybody around would like to do that. That's something else that's going to fire up as well. I do also want to thank you all for your recommendations. We had a Tavern tour stop that was scheduled in the month of August. They are pre-scheduled, and I mean months in advance. And this place evidently last week abruptly closed. So all of a sudden we have a hole coming up next month in our Tavern tour stop schedule with Heaven Hill Distillery. And I sent Brent Halverson literally a list of about 50 that you guys have dropped in to me. And I want to thank you all for that. I mean, we could all come up. That's what I like, utilizing you, because you're the ones that want to go. You want to see your place propped up. Literally 50 I sent for recommendations for the month of August. And it is an absolute who's who. Some of the places I knew. Some of the places I didn't. Some of the places are more than an hour away. Like, I didn't know too much. My friend Litzy and the gang sent a place called Bernie's in Frankton, Bernie's Bar and Grill. And I didn't know too much about that. The Mason Inn, I think that's in Pittsburgh, was mentioned. You know, obviously Shallows in Greenwood, I know. The Crowbar in Trafalgar, I know. I know our good friends at the Checkered Flag on West Washington. We were there last November. Want us back again. We do love that place. But about 50 that I sent of recommendations to Brent Halverson, and then he and Michelle Kiefer will put together where we're going to go coming up in August. But normally that's put together months in advance, and we had a bit of a change of pace because of an abrupt closing. And I want to thank you for offering up, again, all those options for us. I got to give a shout-out to Brian at Sid's up in Noblesville. We were at Sid's last summer. What a great destination. They want us back. Shout-out to SPT, that's Sean Patrick Turley, who's celebrating a birthday today. He was the one that connected Brian and I together. So we will announce that here coming up, I'm assuming here in the next couple of days, if not a week, of where the destination is going to be for the August Tavern tour stop. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Kevin Bowen coming up at the top of the hour. Charles Arbuckle is on the show. DeForest Buckner joins us coming up tomorrow. DJ wants to know when I'm doing a live show at Dancers. I would. I mean, I would do one at Brad's. I'd do one at the Brass. Matter to me. We'll go have some fun. I just want to have some fun, whatever. Is there a dude place around here? So, yes, DJ, I'm not sure. But I'm assuming if somebody wants the show that our people around here would listen. I flat guess that to be true. I mentioned DeForest Buckner coming up on the show tomorrow. We're going to be live in Westfield for you as well. All right, Fever in action against the Mercury. That should be an interesting game coming up later on tonight. We'll follow a lot of the other news that is going on. If you missed it yesterday, it's kind of a note or two about high school football before it actually gets underway. I would advise to prep yourself for the high school football season. You better get with that podcast with Kyle Neddenrip yesterday at the Star. It was really good. I just got an exceptional text that I will share with you regarding Carson Wentz coming up on the other side. Quick break. We'll come back. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Fan.
So Rick Venturi sent me a message, and he said, the Wentz question, JMV, is actually a good one. The Cardinal game put the Colts at 9-7. And that's what I was thinking about. And you remember there was a level of excitement after that win with Wentz. And this kind of just gets back to the whole quarterback debate and the competition and all that. And also it equates to the futility that we have seen over so many years, basically since Andrew Luck. I should say since Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers played well. But this team was at, I think, a level with its fan base and excitement that has been a rarity after that game. And, oftentimes, because Jim Irsay clearly wanted rid of Carson Wentz, and it was a lack of leadership quality and all that, it is written off. But he was pretty decent, to be honest, compared to what we have seen. When you look back on, I don't know if trying to compare it to others right now, if it's maybe a backhanded compliment, or as they like to say, is it any port in a storm? Well, he was pretty decent, which, is better than what we have witnessed here in recent history. But I do remember that well. That was maybe a high point with this team. Now, we simply put have not seen in a very long time. And we'll see if it's going to be any different this year. Yet not so much the quarterback competition. But we'll talk a little bit about the Colts coming up with Kevin here at the top of the hour. Fever and Mercury at the Field House this evening. A little bit of light shed on that as well. And some afternoon baseball activity ongoing. 6-3 Cubs, top of 6. So was 5-2 each team with another run in Milwaukee. And the Cubs trying to scrape through with a victory. Michael Busch has a home run. Michael Busch has been fantastic for the Cubs this year. Reds and Dodgers later on tonight, speaking of trying to salvage something, even on the season 9-9, Nick Martinez and Shohei Ohtani gets the ball for the Dodgers. So much like we have seen the past couple of nights, it will be a packed house, and we'll see if the Reds end up disappointing anybody. Nick Kroll did make a move of sorts today. With a team that needs some offense, you end up going out there and getting a 28-year-old, 236, 2 home run, 36 driven in, defensive-minded third baseman. Okay, that's what you do. Ke'Bryan Hayes, the son of Charlie Hayes. So this is going to be Nick Kroll's big move right here. 28-year-old, 236, 2 home runs, 36 driven in, and 369 plate appearances this season. A 6-year Pittsburgh Pirate. Hey, by the way, the Reds 3 games back in the race for the final National League wildcard spot as they enter play against the Dodgers later on tonight. Reds ranked 28th in OPS from their third baseman this season, compiling a 620 mark. Hayes, a career 676 OPS. We're getting all the nerdery. Hey, by the way, I was going to ask you this. Not that I think that everybody here is a nerd, but the Gen Con that's in town, is there any major guests that are making appearances? Do we know of? At all?
Not off the top of my head. I can certainly look through the website. See if
Are there normally Gen Con? Does it normally have like notable guests?
I would assume
celebrities.
So. I would assume,
or is it kind of like celebrities are different now? It could be some like online celebrity, some YouTube, or some other star. Or we don't know. It doesn't necessarily have to be from like every time I think about it, I think about all right. So who from Star Wars will be here or something? But it doesn't have to be that, or Star Trek. Or Battlestar Galactica. I'm telling you, this is a Wednesday, and downtown is already packed. So be ready. Gen Con in town. I don't even know what it was last week. They go back to back. They had a big convention last week with a bunch of kids, and there are people everywhere. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Kevin Bowen, the latest from Colts camp. No practice today. A night gathering coming up tomorrow. I'll be there. DeForest Buckner is on the show. I will look for you in Westfield. Kevin Bowen, Charles Arbuckle, still on the way in your Haras Hoosier Park race of the day. And your calls at 239-1070. Mercury Fever later on tonight. Afternoon baseball. Trade deadline approaching in MLB. I've got a whole lot more for you. Sit tight. Hour 2 straight ahead. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
With JMV.
This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So is that loud as it goes right there? That's it?
On your end, it seems like.
Let's change microphones. You guys mind if we change microphones really quick? Hold on.
Let's try it.
That went on. Now that sounds exactly the same. Barely sounds anything. You guys hear me okay there? Huh. Is it just my hearing?
It may just be your hearing, man.
Did I go even more depth on my way here today?
You might have. I mean, when I was trying it during one of those breaks, it sounded normal to me.
So this sounds normal right here.
Yeah, you sound fine to me.
Well, let me go back. Is there a way that I could have gone even more depth just on my way in, you think?
It's possible.
Because it sounds, I hear nothing right now.
You're not getting...
I get me better, like I'm louder if I were to take my headphones off.
You're not
Seriously.
like feeling sick or stuffed up or anything like that?
I feel great.
I don't know.
I'm sound as a pound, brother. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. Maybe our next guest can help figure this out because I think he sat here earlier today. Were your headphones working well in the studio earlier today, Kev?
First time in studio in a week. They worked excellent for me, and I must say there's been some days where I slide into the chair that you occupy, and obviously you sign off here in a couple hours, and, you know, I would say, I don't know, half the nights of the week, no one else sits in that chair until I'm in there at 7 a.m. And when Mark Dykton hits us with the morning intro at 6:59, I literally think my eardrums are going to blow out of my ear. You can't hear a thing.
So you think I'm the issue here? Because I wonder.
I think you're deaf.
Me too. Maybe that's the case. Like I'm blaming everything else around here. Maybe I should look in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean.
Maybe I need hearing aids.
You and I obviously both, you know, dabbled in the old We Grow Hair Indie experience.
Yeah.
But I think from a hearing standpoint, we're at two ends of the spectrum here.
Well, that's a sobering account that you're describing right here for me. I
know that sounded a tad harsh. Yeah, I really hope you get it figured out.
This goes back like 7 or 8 years. I actually had a pair of hearing aids, and I wore them for 35 minutes, and they irritated my lobe, and I never wore them again.
Well, don't they say? I mean, not that you were, you know.
Well, this was like 7 or 8 years ago, though, too. So they were different.
Not that you were DJing heavy metal, but don't they say, like, you know, sometimes DJs need, I feel like that's a thing, or I don't know, maybe people that, like, work on, you know, audio, in the audio department for bands, you know, need some sort of hearing instrument at some point in their life.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, I do know that I have a level of deafness, I should say. Is that a word? But I do have a high level of being deaf. I can still hear, but it has to be cranked up, as you have noted before. So I guess maybe this is me. But it sounds hollow and weird in here right now. It sounds unlike it did yesterday.
Well, we also had a laugh today. I think it was a 9 o'clock hour. You know, young parents, I'm sure, and, you know, John, you could probably empathize with this at some point, you know, when Laney and Blake went to different schools. But, you know, when the school doesn't align up, you know, the start date in the summer, you're kind of in scramble mode. You're like, all right, you know, like next week, for example, we get Max going back 2 days before Rosie goes back. And so Mark Dykton was in a position today where his wife's starting a new job. His two oldest go back to school. Brownsburg already started. And so his 4-year-old, Nora, had to come in studio this morning.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You know, I mean, Mark's asking little Nora Dykton to wake up at, you know, whatever, 5:30 in the morning, bring her in studio, I mean, and sit there for 3 hours. I mean, boy, there's some daunting tasks, and that's one of them. And so, you know, 9 o'clock segment rolls around, and at some point, Nora's underneath the desk, and we all go off air for about 15 to 20 seconds. So I think Mark.
That's awesome.
Mark
shout out to Nora.
Shout out to Nora Dykton. She
That's
had turned
great.
off something or unplugged something, and
that's great.
Definitely gave us a pretty good laugh.
That is pretty good. Yeah, I absolutely love. Actually, Blake came in with me on Saturday. I had a marathon because Rakestraw didn't get back in time, so I was basically here from noon until midnight, last Saturday, and Blake came in and did some work in the studio upstairs. But Laney comes in all the time and hangs out, and sometimes this is on the weekends too, and on the weekends bring friends. So it's pretty cool. You'll be doing that one of these days, I bet you.
I know. We stopped in studio last Saturday before we went over to the WNBA Fan Fest, Rosie and a couple of her friends, and they got to sit in a chair, put on I think Soccer Saturday was just wrapping up. They got to put on the headphones and everything.
Nice.
So, they felt pretty cool. So that was fun to show them that.
So former producer and friend Tony Donahue has said this: "You are deaf AF," is what Tony writes here, "and have been for a decade. You hated those hearing aids because you feel old. People think you're ignoring them in person. You just can't hear them." Now, I don't know about people thinking I ignore them. I don't think that's true, is it?
Yeah,
Sometimes I shake my head. I don't hear things properly, and sometimes I shake my head like I do. There's no telling what I'm like shaking my head to. They could be saying, "You know what? You have the worst BO of all time, you big jack stick." And I'd be, "Oh, yeah, sure. That's me."
Yeah,
Yeah.
Certainly Tony paints it in a very, direct manner. I think I would encourage you probably to get something looked at. Nowadays, when did you try that? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, about 7 or so years ago, I think. And 35 minutes, I go, "Man, these things are irritating my lobes. I'm done."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know how you are. You said that if, you could put plastic on every part of your body, you would do it. So, now would be a good time, I think, to try to dabble back into that.
See, I'm going to say, you're making sense to me right now, because normally if you take the hardline approach of just do it, and kind of browbeat me a little bit, then I won't do it. But now the way you're explaining it, it makes sense, and I'll do it. Right? You know what I mean? It's not like you're forcing me, but you're trying to explain it to me logically instead of telling me what to do. I don't like to be told what to do, and often. Oh, sometimes I do, but often. So the way you explain it to me, I can get that now.
Okay. Well, when I get fired from the morning show, maybe I could dabble in some therapy at some point.
Yes. I'll sit on the couch and listen to what you have to say one of these days. I don't want to start with the quarterback position. I kind of promised people out there I wouldn't today. I know you guys talked to Tyler Warren. Now, do you think this is one of those storylines where once we get into the season, we're kind of forgetting we had it, or we felt we wasted our breath in the preseason? Or do you think that Shane Steichen and this Colts offensive philosophy will have a lot of utilization on his different levels of skill, even as a rookie, that he brings to that position?
Yeah, I think they will use him a lot and all over the field. I think if anybody's out there Tuesday at practice, they definitely saw that. And, it's one of the things that I think kind of further impressed them, about his senior season at Penn State. His offensive coordinator at Penn State his last year came over from Kansas, and that's where Chris Ballard's son plays. So there's a little bit of familiarity there. And, again, they really opened up the playbook. For those unfamiliar, Tyler Warren was a high school quarterback. He really was recruited more as kind of an athlete than he was, 1,000% going to be a tight end. So, there's a little bit of that background to his game. And again, he's very sure-handed and all of that. So, yeah, I said it this morning, John. I think one of the definite areas that I would be stunned if the Colts are not elite in this season, one of the best teams in the league, no questions asked, will be the short yardage game. When you throw some combination of Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, even Daniel Jones can make plays with his legs, obviously not to Richardson's degree, but he can do it. And then obviously Taylor and Warren, you can do a whole lot of creative, and Shane Steichen, dabbles in that certainly. So, I think they will definitely do that with Warren, whether he's split out, catching screens and stuff like that, whether he's lined up at fullback, I wouldn't shock me if you have a wildcat look or two in there. Hell, he might be more accurate than the other two quarterbacks.
Will they utilize the tush push?
I don't think so. It's actually something they dabbled in, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say Steichen's first ever game, and I just remember it not going well, and I don't think Steichen has gone back to it, which again is also kind of a mystery. It's when they had Ryan Kelly, it's wait a minute, you've got Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly and 6'5" and 250 Anthony Richardson, and you can't do the tush push. So unless they think whatever Tanner Bortolini is, or Danny Pinter is great at it. No, I guess I'd be a little surprised.
How much time do they give A.D. Mitchell in development? And I guess yesterday he had a good day, which would be his first good day. And we can make a lot out of training camp, and sometimes there's a reason behind it. It is significant, and with what we saw a year ago, there was probably placed some doubt into whether or not he was going to be able to translate into what they thought or end up being somebody like Dante Moncrief. In what category would you describe him right now? And what do you think the timetable is for them to find out exactly what they have in this wide receiver?
Oh, I think they'll be plenty patient. I mean, we're talking, year two upcoming of a 4-year rookie contract. I mean, if they've hung on to Jelani Woods this long, you would surely hang on to A.D. Mitchell for quite some time. Just because he's frustrating and maddening doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're letting him go or trading him. I think his season this year, though, is such a key factor in how you look at Alex Pierce, how you look at Michael Pittman Jr. as they reach some contract decisions. Pierce definitely in a contract year. Pittman probably will view it as that, given that he signed the extension a couple off seasons ago. So, they're going to be, patient with him. I think when they drafted him, they knew there was certainly some polishing, some rounding out of his game that needed to be done. But again, he continues to do arguably the hardest thing, the easiest. And, for example, earlier this week, they lined him up on Javarius Ward in a couple of one-on-one drills. I mean, that's your fourth wideout against a number one corner. That should not go well for the fourth wideout. And A.D. Mitchell roasted him on 2 routes and caught both balls, which, is probably worth mentioning. Seemingly that's been the issue here in camp. So, it's not like they're just going to hand him playing time. But, over the course of 17 weeks, injuries are going to happen. He's going to get chances. And we'll see if he becomes more reliable. But, I don't look at this like make or break or anything.
And
like
while
that.
I agree with you on that, I don't think this group has too much time to be patient on anything. Does that make sense to you? I don't think they can jack around with playing somebody that they can't trust, or that whomever is the quarterback can't trust. I don't think they have that kind of time. They shouldn't have that type of time.
Sure, I definitely understand where that thought comes from. And if and when new management is here, then you'll look at the whole roster as who are Ballard guys and who are whatever, John Michael Vincent guys. I mean, whoever is going to be the next GM. But, as far as this year, I mean, if they play tomorrow, I don't know, a dozen-ish snaps he would get. And then again, in those dozen snaps, maybe you're throwing the ball to him 1 or 2 times. It's not, and simply at that point, you're just giving him snaps to probably relieve, the other 3 from heavy duty. And maybe they look at it differently. Maybe they say, well, you know what, we're going to wait and see, and, we'll trust Ashton Doolin a little bit more. Honestly, I think Anthony Gould, I know he's a slot guy, but I thought he's really had a nice camp in backing up Josh Downs. So, I think tomorrow night, honestly, is a really big night for Mitchell. I don't want to make too much out of, one random training camp practice, but, the Colts have mentioned this quite often. There are heightened kind of days in camp, and one of those is tomorrow night, full pads, night practice. They're going to do a lot of kind of situational awareness stuff. And if Michael Pittman Jr. is out with a groin injury, then, how Mitchell looks in an expanded role, I think will be kind of a critical practice for him.
How big is tomorrow night going to be for Spencer Strader?
Yeah, I think it's a big kicking night as well. Brian Mason, their special teams coordinator, the Zionsville product, mentioned that it will be big for Schrader and that competition. Both of them have kicked pretty similarly in the team practices. I think, both are like 10 of 12, 9 of 11, something like that. I still think Schrader will win the job and be the kicker, but I mean, no matter what, whoever wins it, if for some reason he doesn't win it, it's going to be, very inexperienced kicker trotting out there week one. So, yeah, it does sound like for those going out there tomorrow, if you like field goal kicking, you'll get some field goal kicking.
He is Kevin Bowen, morning show, covers the Colts. They've been out there. Is there anything that has stood out to you? You've been out to all these events so far. I'm going to go out there for the first time tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. But is there anything, outside of the constant, conversation regarding the quarterback situation, anything more so than anything else that has stood out to you, either good or bad, in this first week?
It's a good one. Again, I thought early on, that secondary was, really just dominating practices, frankly. And, any sort of contested catch, first off, a lot of them were contested, frankly, and that's not something we really saw at all. Very often with the previous defense, and they would win, a lot of these kind of 50-50 ball opportunities, and again, did that a whole lot. I think that's changed a bit as practices moved along. I think the last 2 days, actually, the quarterbacks and the passing offense in general has been a little better, less drops, things like that. The D-line for 2 days, and obviously we're having this conversation on July 30th, for 2 days in full pads, I don't really think the D-line did a ton either day, really. We're talking about probably Richardson and Jones's best 2 days of work in camp, the last two. And obviously a big reason why, and, area that obviously helps is when you have clean pockets. And I get that, like, maybe there are a player or two where, hey, that defensive lineman would have made more of an attempt at a sack. But, oftentimes in the full pads, they'll blow plays dead or things like that when they feel like the pocket has gotten to the point where there's no way that quarterback would escape it. And I don't feel like we've had many of those over the last 2 days. So, that would be something that I would throw there. Trying to think what else. We'll see about that Jalen Jones injury. Your cornerback, you hope he's not out for too long because, cornerback depth now, like Juju Brent's all of a sudden, assuming he's not out for too long, like he would rise into being, a really key guy. And one thing I don't want to make a ton of just yet, because I do think his return is about to happen, but we still have yet to see Zaire Franklin. So, it does sound like maybe tomorrow, maybe this weekend. You're talking about the quarterback of a defense, and we've yet to see the starting linebacker duo, him and Jalen Carlisle, together at all with Lou Anarumo. Spring, summer, either of those. So, I just think week 1 and week 2 is so critical with the schedule. If all of a sudden you've got some defensive growing pains and facing Tua, facing Bo Nix, that could be a big issue for you.
Kevin Bowens of the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Night practice tomorrow night to Grand Park in Westfield. We will be there with the afternoon show, at least leading up to it, with DeForest Buckner coming up tomorrow. So this is not anything that is going to raise any eyebrows, because I say this crap all the time. I'm a must-win guy. I don't care if it's week 1 or whatever week it is or what the math says or any of that bull crap. I will must-win it if I feel it's necessary to must-win it. So you look at that week 1 matchup at home against the Dolphins, and then you look at their secondary, where everybody from a year ago is gone. And I have not looked up to see how good or not good they were a year ago, but the fact remains that everybody they had counted on last year and everybody they had counted on this year is now gone, and basically they're starting new. So if this Colts team can't take advantage of that and this Dolphins team, I'm sorry, that's not good. And we've been through these situations before where it hasn't started out good. Basically for the past 10 years or whatever it's been, it's not been good. But you kind of view it the same way as I do, at least on the surface, and more than a month away, because that is really, for this Colts team, it seems to be a team that's trying to find itself, trying to be consistent, trying to win for the first time consistently in a long time. It would seem with that secondary, that's a silver platter start opportunity right there.
Yeah, it definitely is. If you're going to have a struggling passing offense, boy, isn't that the type of opposition that you would want to see? And, the Colts caught a huge break in the game last year, not having to face Tua. Assuming Tua doesn't get hurt, they won't catch that break this year. It won't be old Tim Tad Boyle and Snoop Huntley playing quarterback against you. So, again, I totally hear you out on where you're coming from. I'm taking it more from an angle of, like, if we continue to get the same AFC pattern, if it is Buffalo in the East, Baltimore in the North, if it's Houston in the South and it's Kansas City out West, that puts teams like Denver in the wild card mix. That puts teams like Indianapolis, like Miami, just like last year. I mean, both those games, the Dolphins kind of snuck around there and hung in there. Denver obviously made it, and that game in December was huge. So I look at it more from that of you've got, 2 home games to start the year against teams that, obviously the NFL doesn't go according to plan every season, but that I think could be in the mix. And if you're able to get, a couple wins, but also a couple, key tiebreakers, it might not seem like a lot to talk about on September, 7th, but it could mean a whole lot January 7th, December 7th. So that's kind of how I've looked at it. Like, honestly, outside of the Houston games, I think they're the 2 biggest games of the year.
Hey, Kev, so my friend Greg wrote me this. If Richardson had Wentz's stats, I was talking about Carson Wentz a little bit earlier, and, the long line of quarterbacks we have seen run through with this Colts organization over the past more than a handful of years. If Richardson had Wentz's stats, the Colts would give him a $50 million per year extension and thump their chests over how smart they were to trust him. That true? If he had Wentz's stats? Because the whole Wentz deal, that came unraveled at the end of the year and came unraveled with the late Jim Irsay, the owner, and his lack of appreciation for what he described as the lack of leadership quality of Wentz. But stats-wise, would everybody around here be thrilled if Richardson put up those types of numbers?
I don't know. I have to go back and kind of look at it a little bit I tried to remove myself from the Carson Wentz era. I felt like at the end of the season, which again, there maybe have been some times the Colts have felt this as well, it got to the point where it was like, just hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor because you don't trust Carson Wentz at all, if I remember correctly, kind of down the stretch. I remember like really unraveling late for him, and I don't know, maybe the whole, COVID and vaccinated standpoint, I don't think like that was a non-factor in the owner's eyes, certainly there, but like, I don't know, the New England game stands out to me late in the year where I feel like Wentz didn't even throw the ball because they were just so afraid of what he could do with that. So, I would think you wouldn't give a contract extension to either, whether it's Carson Wentz's stats. I mean, that's Chris Ballard's regime. He clearly moved on from
I don't think the argument was giving it to Wentz. I just said if Richardson had comparable numbers to Wentz, everybody would be really excited. I think that was the point that was being made.
Yeah,
everybody would be really excited about it.
I guess with Richardson, to me, the thing is, can you become just a little bit of a more accurate quarterback on the underneath stuff and limit the turnovers? Like, those are kind of the 2 areas that I point to. And again, year 1, his rookie year, albeit very small sample size, he did a very nice job with those turnovers. Last year, they got way, way too high. You don't need Richardson to be 60, hell, you don't need to be him, 62%, 65%, however you want to look at it. With his ability to make plays with his legs and throw the ball down the field, you can live with, 55, something like that %. And then again, those incompletions, they just can't be the crippling turnovers that he had way too many of last year. So again, I think all of this is what makes it so frustrating. I know quarterback wins is not necessarily a stat that everyone agrees upon, but like Richardson is 8-7 as a starting quarterback in this league. It's like, wow, he's 8-7, and you just fired the defensive coordinator that he was with for all those games. That's confusing, is it not? That's like head scratching. It's like, wait a minute, if he just takes a little bit of a stride, and the defense takes a little bit of a stride, does 8-7 become 11-5, or something? I guess 10-5, like something along those lines. You can live with that, certainly. So I think that's what makes the thing so complicated. And of course, if all of his checks, if he makes improvement and, whatever, you start to have better play from him, can he stay healthy? And that's obviously the question that we'll get no answer until September. I would say the fact that he's thrown it this much, though, in the first week, I did not think he would participate as much as he has. I mean, he's thrown it a ton. And for him to have come into camp and have been that active, I get it's a small win, but I think it's a very important win for his sake.
Speaking of win, did you get a win over your toilet? Is it working properly?
Yes, I believe we are headed. We're trending in the right direction here. But
good.
Like I told you last week, Max Bowen still is trying to, test these pipes with his potty training ability here. So, shout out to LD Smith Plumbing and their.
Oh man, Lance and his local team at LD Smith Plumbing. So I told Lance, I said, no matter what, make sure Maddie Bowen's happy.
Amen to that. And she's 25 weeks pregnant, so we got to make sure she is uber happy.
Man, oh man, you're going to fam. There.
I know. Another girl. So
what made you go for 3 right here?
Well,
is that too personal to ask?
No. That's not too personal. She comes from a family of 4. I come from a family of 2. So, kind of happy medium, I guess, in between that. And, I would say she would tell you she's probably a little bit more was gung-ho about it. I kind of, it took me a little while, but I think I eventually got there. I am glad that we're having another girl, though. I don't know if I could do another Max Bowen. The kid's just nuts. So, maybe I will rethink that thought when the teenage years rolls around, but for now,
well done. Well, congratulations, and we're glad your toilet is working the way that it was meant to work in the Bowen household. And a shout-out to Lance and LD Smith Plumbing. Kevin Bowen on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Kev's going to be up there coming up tomorrow evening as well. Kevin, a part of the morning show with Jeff Rickard, who is back from riding in the Tour de France, and James Boyd, who bails out last-minute basketball situations to stay fresh to cover the fever. Well done.
Hey, James and I slid over and watched a little Butler Bulldog practice.
Yes,
earlier today. Always a great afternoon when you're in Hinkle Fieldhouse. So that was fun. They got that kid from Gonzaga is a hell of an athlete, Michael Ajay.
I do. There have been 2 Ajays, I think, at Gonzaga. This is a different one, but I know who you're talking about.
This is 6'7", 230. He is I can see why the NBA chatter has happened before with him, and we'll see if we can find that with Butler.
Kev, I appreciate you, man. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Good luck with the hearing. See you tomorrow.
Woo! Kevin Bowen's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He just gave that to me straight. Quick break. We'll come back. Haras Hoosier Park race of the day. Charles Arbuckle, top of the hour. Sit tight. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
and the beat goes on. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, honestly, I didn't think that Kevin thought that was an odd or out of the ordinary question. A couple of different people have suggested what an odd question to ask. Why you go for 3? Did you think that was weird? Why you go for 3? I've known
Not really.
Kevin forever.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity. Why'd you go for 3? That's pretty funny. A lot of you said, that's weird. Brian Thomas checks in. Yes, give us 28 and 8. Carson was more than solid. C. Fitz said, I'd definitely much rather have John Michael Vincent guys than Ballard guys. JMV, by the way, my hearing is so bad when my wife gets tired of repeating herself, I just start ignoring her. That probably doesn't work out very well either, to be honest. I think that there's more going on here than just my lack of hearing. But certainly, I'll be the first to tell you it's problematic. James.
Have you ever gone to get your ears cleaned?
Not in a while. Should I?
Maybe. That could potentially be part of it.
Is that where they shoot that water in your ear?
Yeah.
All right, who can do that for me? Can I just do that with like one of those high-powered squirt guns?
I know Kroger, I think. You can actually...
Kroger I can go in?
Yeah, their little clinic area, whatever it is. I think they do that.
So I could go into Kroger, get some cottage cheese, and my ears cleaned. Hell, that's a day right there. Actually, I didn't know if you guys understood this or not, but I'm still on board with low-fat Daisy brand cottage cheese. I do dig it a great deal, but I have slowly made the transition because you can get a lot more. I go to Gordon's Foods and get whatever the hell the low-fat brand they have, and it comes in 5-pound containers. Some of you wouldn't eat 5 pounds of cottage cheese in 5 years. That's all I eat.
Is that just a bucket of cottage cheese?
It is a bucket. They said, here's your bucket of cottage cheese. And thank you very much for this bucket. Seriously, this is more now than just a quest or just a diet. This is my way of life. I never thought it either. It's weird. I think I crave cottage cheese. I think I'm addicted to it. Worst things in the world. Laura Steele shouts, gross, I hate cottage cheese. What? Go see my ENT, ears, nose, and throat doctor. Dr. Euclid. Is that his name, Euclid? Like Kevin Euclid that used to play for the Red Sox? Kevin Euclid was known as what, James, as a Major League Baseball player? Does anybody know this?
I have no idea.
Most noted for what? I believe he was a part of that Red Sox championship team. But most noted for what? And this plays in the film Moneyball. It's mentioned in Moneyball.
He gets on base?
By Jonah Hill. That's good. Yes, he is the king, the god of walks.
Oh.
Kevin Euclid, I believe, was the god of walks, which is getting on base. Well done right there. Your insurance should pay for it to see, or she's going to be joining us on the 9th at the State Fair, part of the JMV Takeover. Shout out to Dr. Euclid. So I could go to Kroger and get cottage cheese and get my ears cleaned, or I could go see Dr. Euclid on behalf of Laura Steele.
There you go.
It all works right there. Thank you. Hey, JMV, I get where you're coming from regarding the quarterback competition and getting tired of talking about it, or at least getting people tired of listening about you talking about it. But it is something I think ultimately we all need to know. We want to know. And you're right. It's like, as I mentioned earlier, it's me playing the hits. And it does. It wears me out. It wears me out because there's not going to be, even if they have the worst day ever, and we document that, and everybody gets really pissy about one or the other. It really doesn't matter as much with Daniel Jones, but it's always going to matter with Anthony Richardson. But even if they have the worst of the worst days, you're still not going to know anything until the start of the season. And by the way, I think Richardson has to be so galactically bad not to get the start in week number 1, I just don't see there being any way. Now, it doesn't mean I think that everything is going to change for the better. I just don't think that Jones is going to rise to the level in which the Colts are going to go, yeah, I think it's a good idea to go ahead and start him in week 1, regardless of all the competition conversation. But yeah, it does wear me out. And I know because it wears me out, if it does me, it's going to do you as well. So that's why we try to bring up other things. Hell, I don't really want to talk about the jack of all trades from tight end. I think it's going to be interesting how he's going to be utilized. We've heard, all this about Shane Steichen offensively and this and that. That's certainly something that could add to the equation. But the problem is, if you don't have the signal caller that's going to be able to take you to just a normal level in general. Like Kevin was talking about the record with Richardson and, how most of the time somebody would take it. But there's a difference between just looking at a stat or a highlight or an overall record. We know where this team is. And it is something that just can't happen again. It shouldn't have been able to happen last year. But we know where it is. Regardless of stats or descriptions or a highlight here or there or the oh wow effect that you will get. And I think that all comes down to a word that I commonly use, and that is consistency. Like, there are things that we don't know right now about this team to where if you were just to sprinkle in some consistency, you got something going. We talk about the quarterback position, the efficiency, the accuracy consistently. Quarterback pressure that is more consistent. Just your level of play. Not doing yourself in. Kevin brought up that Denver game and, what was a hinge factor between, ultimately one team going into the postseason, the other team sitting at home. You take one more step into the end zone and maybe things change dramatically. Maybe they don't. But you sure as hell give yourself a much better opportunity, if you catch my drift. But that's kind of where you are with this team right now until further notice. And I mean when things are getting real. And I was sincere about that Miami game. So you have a secondary that is all new in Miami. And guys that were supposed to play that are injured, guys that did play a year ago like Jalen Ramsey that are now gone. And it seems like we come around this corner every single year to talk about, well, this is necessary and you got to get that win. And this is me and my must-win bull crap. But you can't tell me if you don't have a high level of success against the secondary in week number 1 that is entirely new. That conversation between weeks 1 and week 2, that'll be grand. You don't want it. People are going to tell me that I'm wrong, and that's okay. But you don't want it. Reds make a deal today. They make a deal for not offense, but a defensive-minded third baseman. Nick Kroll, a defensive-minded third baseman, the son of Charlie Hayes, who has spent his entire career in Pittsburgh. It just kind of seems like, as a Reds fan, it's like, hey, I know that the fan base wants us to make a move, but we're going to here's a move. It's like that feels like a very half-ass move. Here's a move for you. Is that how it feels? And you watch the Reds play, and there are times like the last 2 nights where they don't give you an indicator where it's really necessary for anybody to do a damn thing. But you would like to think at some point you would see more of an investment. if you could just spark a little bit of excitement in it, and maybe it comes down to being better defensively at third. But I think it also comes down to, man, it'd be great if he had a little bit more pop in the lineup somewhere, if he found somebody that has a little bit more of a hitting prowess. Feels like a deal that was done just for the sake of getting a deal done. Quick one, we'll come back. Jim McCann writes this, James, going to the break. How about this for a poll? Would you rather hear about the Colts quarterback battle or JMV's earwax? I didn't say anything about earwax. It's my lack of hearing. That's kind of gross.
It was a little implied with the ear cleaning thing.
Like I don't know if I've ever used the term earwax on the air. That's kind of gross. There's no really good way to say that doesn't sound gross.
Yeah. I mean, it's not any grosser to me than when you talk about tuna and cottage cheese, so.
No. That's a completely different thing there.
They're both pretty gross.
I would rather me use the word moist 3 or 4 times a show than earwax.
See, that word doesn't bother me at all.
Why is it so effective
for some people?
Some people just go, wow, what are you saying moist about?
I don't know. It's one of those weird things.
Yeah. Like I've said moist now 3 times, and I would much rather say that than earwax. Thank you, Jim McCann. Let everybody vote on that one right there. The Colts quarterback battle does wear people out, though. I know that for certain. I recognize it, and we talk about it while also sharing opinions on other things. Quick break. We'll come back. Charles Arbuckle's coming up at the top of the hour. Don't miss that. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Johnny, don't! David Letterman!
Hi, David. I'm Grandpa.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I have a quick beer question. James, you can chime in on this too. Todd Meyer was just in here. Todd Meyer went to Michigan and brought back Labatt's Blue Light.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time you had Labatt's Blue?
I don't think I've ever had Labatt's Blue.
Now, Labatt's Blue, who considers that to be a good beer or a subpar beer? Mediocre beer, subpar. And the only reason that I like it, the only reason that Todd brought it back via my request, thank you, Todd, was because in bottles, you can get it in cans in different places. Certainly Labatt's Blue. Labatt's Blue Light's a little tougher to find, but I couldn't find Labatt's Blue Light in bottles around here. So Todd comes back from Michigan with a case of Labatt's Blue Light for me. Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the world of beer lovers? I know I'm talking to a number of beer lovers out there. I was on a radio talk show in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada this morning, and I asked this guy, Kevin, the similar question, and they up there, they'll get what we have as domestic beers and, you know, what we kind of go, oh, okay, well, that's the beer we're having, and they covet that. And I think it's kind of the same. If it's tougher to get, the more popular it seems to be, right? If it's not readily available, is that true?
Mm-hmm. Now,
does that make it better if it's more difficult to find?
It certainly, I mean, it makes it a more unique experience, I would guess. For the uninitiated for Labatt's, is there kind of a comparison you can make to something around here that would be more
I don't
common?
even know if there is a comparison to make.
Gotcha.
Anybody out there? When's the last time anybody had a Labatt's? And I haven't had a normal Labatt's. That's like $1.50 in calories per bottle. I'm not drinking that. I will go. I think it's like 110, something like that, 112 for a bottle of light. Normally, I'm going the Mick Ultra route, which is 90.
You were dead on. A 12-ounce serving has about 110 to 112.
Hell yes, I'm dead on. Watching the caloric intake. I always liked Labatt's Blue Light in college, and then that kind of went away. We've gone in phases, right? In college, you had that. We drank a lot of Busch Light Draft because it was inexpensive. Drank a lot of ice beer because it got you there quicker. Toby says, JMV, when's the last time you had a Little Kings? Last year. The cream ale thing. And plus the little green bottles. And I mentioned yesterday, too, there's always been something about, and I never understood this, if you remember the conversation we had about Rolling Rock, that's always been known as, I don't know what Canadian beer, like Molson or Labatt's, may be known as, but Rolling Rock was always known as like the douchey beer. Because normally, if a dude's standing there holding that green bottle, he's douchey. So, like me, dressed like this and going out there now, people will probably think that I'm going to be drinking a Rolling Rock because, hey, look at that douche. Because I've kind of got a douche toxicity problem here.
The weird thing about Rolling Rock is I don't know if I've ever actually had one, but I did have a guitar for a while that had, like, the livery, I guess you would call it, was all Rolling Rock. And I got that when I was about 15, so that was always good to bring into the school. They always loved that.
The green bottle.
Oh, yeah.
The green bottle. And, I mean, it's different with Heineken. It comes in a green bottle as well. Hey, here's the one thing I have noticed. Anybody else about Modelo? Modelo Oro is a low-calorie beer, 90 calories, and it's basically yellow water, right? But the Modelo Oro, I think I have consumed. Anybody else have a problem with when you drink these, you end up drinking a little bit of the golden foil wrapping around it? I mean, I either got to peel all that off or I know that I'm going to see that again. Because, I mean, I'm drinking some of that foil wrapping. And it looks really good on the bottle, but I don't want to end up drinking it.
They just need to make that edible at this point.
I don't even, it looks really good, but I think it's completely unnecessary. I do. I don't think it has to look that way. Just me. Charles Arbuckle on the other side. Speaking of looked that way, how has he thought this Colts team has looked so far? Jim McCann goes with the Yingling Light Lager. That's 99 cals right there. I have been keeping it in the 90 category, and that is Michelob Ultra, and that is Modelo Oro. Both 90-calorie ultra premium light beer. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jim McCann, for that. Quick break. We'll come back. Don't go anywhere.
The Ride with JMV.
Sis boom ba. Sis boom ba. Describe the sound made when a sheep explodes.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Colts camp for me tomorrow. I cannot wait to see you guys up there. The night practice. It doesn't start until after I'm done. DeForest Buckner joins me on the show coming up tomorrow. About 4:30. I know Mike Chappell's maybe not going to be there live. Hell, I don't know who's going to be there live besides me. It may be me and an engineer and a set of speakers. So, hell, I'm just going to blast some music and have a hell of a time. Do we know if anybody else is going to be up there at all? Matt Taylor going to be up there at that time?
I mean, I'm assuming Matt will be there at some point.
But maybe not when I'm
I'm not
on
sure
the air.
What their schedule is over there.
And then afterwards, let's all go to Joe's Grill in Westfield. Who's up? Who's up for it? Somebody check and see who. Is there a band at Joe's Grill on Thursday night? Somebody check on that. Where's Ryan Nowley? Hey, Nowles, check on that. Where's Ryan Miller? You guys have a band Thursday night? I think I'm going to stop in. All right, Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. We've got a little bit of news right here. The former Colts tight end, longtime friend of this show. He does a lot of collegiate stuff, and now a little bit of a change of a pace and a new voice that you know very well, a part of some of these Colts broadcasts. Charles Arbuckle joins us now. Hello, Charles. How are you?
I'm good, JMV. How you doing, man?
So are we allowed to go ahead and talk up some of your new Colts coverage situations that are on the horizon?
Hey, sometimes old becomes new, right?
Damn right. Especially when you're a great dude like yourself right there. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, man, I'm excited too. I was out at Colts practice on Friday and Saturday last week, and I've been talking with the guys over there about doing some stuff for the mainly preseason, and it kind of led to doing some regular season games. So I'll be probably doing about 7 altogether, and they're all on the road, which is great. And it'd be great to work with Matt Taylor. And I'll tell him he's like the Swiss Army knife over there. They got him doing everything.
Well, I will tell you this. Rick Venturi is one of my favorites of all time, and to have his voice and your voice a part of it too. I mean, you got to think of it from my angle. I mean, the more content and certainly those that have been there and know, that's what I love, and I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I love Coach Venturi. I hated going against his defenses, but we always have had a high amount of respect for each other. He had a couple of guys that were pretty good, like Dwayne Bickett. And,
he did.
Jeff Harrod and a bunch of other names I can just start rattling off that I had to battle every year and every day in practice. So yeah, it's always good to talk ball with him, and it's just going to be good to kind of be back in the place where I started. I mean, the Colts gave me my opportunity to play in the league for 4 years, and then it gave me another chance to right after that start broadcasting. And I know I was terrible when I started, and I may not be good now, but I sure can't fake it much better than I did.
Well, I mean, the knowledge is there. Was the last time that you were consistently calling games on the air in this market the Indiana Firebirds with Mark Patrick?
I think it was. I was doing Colts preseason radio and TV, and then mainly the Firebirds, and then after that, that's kind of when everything went away. Yeah, that's right. It's been a while.
Were you surprised that the Firebirds didn't sustain, or because of, and let's just say it, the ownership was like a roller coaster, a little bit wacky there too. Were you unsurprised regarding the outcome of the Firebirds? Because I always thought that the product was exciting and people got into it, but it just poof went up and disappeared.
Yeah, I really thought they had a chance to do something special there because, football, I don't know if people realize how much people love football in that Indianapolis area, but it's also people outside. And the Firebirds were able to get, they had a name coming from Albany, but when they got there, they were good right away. And I think that was the one thing that helped them in that market. And it was a time of year where there was no real sports opportunity. It was a vacuum. And they came in, man, and I can remember sellout crowds, how quickly the fans learned the game, how quickly they rooted against the Grand Rapids Rampage or the Chicago Rush, some of those teams from back in that same division that they were playing. I really thought, and they had good players. I mean, whether it was Eddie Brown or Raymond Filial, Hopkins was also, you think about those names they had. Coach Wilpold did a really nice job with that team, and I thought they would have been able to last and make some hay there.
Yeah, and maybe that's just the league in its entirety, but I would agree. Although I would say this, I think the owner was the same owner of all the Hooters locations, which no longer exist around here either. So all starts to make a little bit of sense. Charles Arbuckle joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So any standouts from you as far as what you observed so far in this training camp practice you have seen with the Colts?
Well, it's interesting. I got to see them when they had no pads on, and that to me is not a good indication of how things look. The defense as a unit looked great, especially in coverage. But I always tell people it's much easier to cover me or a receiver or anybody else when you have no pads. And I could see the difference in when the pads were on. The quarterbacks didn't look consistent because of the very, very tight windows, and there were some drops by the receivers. But I thought the last couple of days, the quarterback position elevated. The offensive line now, when you put on pads, is able to attack the defense. The defense always is going to take a step forward. And I think the problem for them was the movement and all the different things that they had to guard against with Lou Amorono's defense. I always mess his name up, but I'm going to get it by the season. Lou A. He's like Arbuckle. Arbuckle nobody could say or they could finally spell it out. But Lou has got that defense playing well. And I think that's the best thing. And that secondary is the one thing that stood out to me right away when you watch, because those guys were just like locked on people. And I like to see that early on, because what it's going to do is force the receivers to have man beaters, be able to get off, and make sure Pittman can get away. And then also the tight end group can make moves. So, what I was impressed with was the physicality with no pads and just the way guys were balling, especially the defense, because the defense last year did not play well. And I talked about it a few weeks ago. That's where they're going to really have to make their hay. And that secondary is going to have to be a lot better at getting off the field on third down, but also causing turnovers. And already in camp, I've seen a lot of that, and that's a good sign.
Well, and that's what you target when you bring in this case, Ward and Bynum at that high dollar figure. You're believing in their playmaking ability and what that does to the secondary and what is necessary. And I've always kind of placed that in the category of that's what your new defensive coordinator is looking for, would be the secondary pieces like that. But the one thing we haven't really talked too much about, and I'm assuming without pads you didn't see too much, and maybe a little bit more tomorrow night we can gather, but, man, consistently finally getting after the opposition's passer is so important. Leatu Latu is a guy that you want to see more from. Do you expect a jump from him from his rookie season to his second season in the NFL? Because I think really, at least production-wise, Charles, that is going to be a must for this team defensively.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the draft, what they were going after in the draft, Kwity Paye has to also be one of those guys. But I agree with you. Latu has to play better and more consistently in those rushing situations, because you're going to have guys on the back end, Ward and Bynum. Those guys are going to do well on the back end. Justin Wally has been kind of the star of camp, and I always tend to not like to say that early on, because of when you're a young guy, you don't want that label on you, and then you kind of hit the wall. All young guys hit the wall. But he has really played some consistent football and been well. But to your point, that interior line has not been the issue it's been that outside edge, and that's what they're going to need. Grover Stewart, just a beast of a man, not quite a guy that can't move. He's really agile and can play. And Forrest Buckner is one of those guys who just has played consistently well over the course of his career. But they're going to need something from the outside. And I think that's when you look at the draft and where they were able to go, I think that's what we're going to see a lot more of with this defense. And that's why they can play man, because when you play man, you have to get after the quarterback. And I think that's going to be the part that I really look for, not only in training camp, when they're going against themselves because they see each other a lot. But when they play Baltimore, when they get to the Bengals and other teams, so I can see what they do against other teams that don't see them every single day.
Charles Arbuckle, the former Colts tight end, is going to be a part of your Colts coverage coming up here in both the preseason and the regular season. Kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So I saw Shane Steichen, the Colts head coach, on ESPN a little bit earlier today, and when talking about the quarterback situation, had mentioned that Anthony Richardson had been humbled by the first couple of years and, tweaked up his mechanics, and he described the situation between he and Daniel Jones as neck and neck. I want to go with your thoughts on Daniel Jones. Could it have been just the environment and the Giants that led to the level of disappointment? Could a change of scenery do him well, or is it kind of what we have seen? Is that what you should expect in the transition from one place to that? I know he had Minnesota in between, but basically from one place to the other here.
Yeah, I think it was a change of scenery. It had to do him some good because that's a tough market. I don't care what anybody says. New York, when you're up and you're doing well, they love you. When you're not, and that's been a consistent in his career. A lot of different offensive coordinators. I don't think any consistency in his offensive line in particular, which already you look at this old line and you say, ooh, they got some guys that can play. Ooh, they got interior guys that can, create space like a Quentin Nelson. So I think, when you look at this opportunity for him at the Colts, it's a good place, even if he doesn't start. I know it does, all guys want to start, but there's only one position there's only one person that's going to generally play, and it's the quarterback position. But I think the other thing, too, is it gives you an insurance policy because if all things are considered, Anthony Richardson has shown you that he can win games with his legs. He just has to be more consistent on those intermediate passes, and because we know he can drive the ball down deep, but you have to be at 65%, 60%, and really being in that point for him. With Daniel Jones, if he doesn't get a chance to start, Richardson has not shown that he can play a full season. And hopefully with him losing weight, getting in shape, not and playing smarter when he has to take off and run the football and not try to, Cam, we saw that in Charlotte a lot. When Cam was really going well, he was trying to take on 300-pounders and some of those linebackers. You can't do that. And I think if Anthony is smart enough, he'll take that to bear and play a full season or put a 10, 15 game season together as opposed to not being able to make it through. And I think that's why Daniel Jones is there because he's 69 starts. You can't replace that. So I think it gives the Colts an insurance policy if Anthony Richardson starts. If Anthony is not able to make it through camp or, just doesn't develop like they think he is going to, then Daniel Jones can be right there to get that starting position for you. And what it's going to be, he's not going to hurt you, but he's also a little bit more sneaky of an athlete than I think people give him credit for as well.
So Charles Arbuckle, who is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I brought this up to Kevin Bowen a little bit earlier. I'll bring this up to you right now. Is it going to be something you would expect to see from Tyler Warren beyond the pass-catching realm for this group? You think that you combine that with Shane Steichen, and Shane Steichen, I'm sure, wanting to do some things offensively outside the box, and, whether or not he's been able to or handcuffed because of the quarterback situation. When you have a guy that's been described as the talent of Warren, do you think he's going to be utilized in more than just the pass-catching realm for this team as a rookie?
Yeah, I'm really excited about watching Tyler Warren, but also DJ Giddens as well. Those two, to me, seem to be some guys that they can do some X-factor things with. Because you had a pocket guy and Josh Downs who you can move in the slot and do different things, and now you have a bigger version with Tyler Warren, being able to spread him out, he's going to be a matchup problem. He's going to force people to play in some situations in that, nickel dime package, and you have to cover him with one of those, guys that can move and cover. But I think the hidden factor is Jonathan Taylor is so explosive. But when I watch DJ Giddens, I get excited about watching him because I can see what they can do with him and give Jonathan a rest, but also maybe use those guys in situations. And if Giddens can catch the ball consistently out of the backfield, which I think he can, we know JT can do that, you're going to have a lot of flexibility in your offense. And then you have Mo Alley Cox, from the tight end position, and Drew Ogletree made some phenomenal catches over the weekend. I think that tight end group is going to give them some flexibility, which quarterbacks love. That's why both Daniel and Anthony have to be consistent in the intermediate. Those things, I saw a lot of them trying to go to the hook routes and getting Tyler coming back showing big body. Because if you're struggling throwing the ball and you're running away, sometimes you just need a big, massive dude to come downhill and catch the ball and keep the drive alive. But that also gives those running backs a chance, because then some seams they can get out to, and you can get them the ball pretty quickly. And it's not a long throw, but it's a long catch and run kind of thing. So I'm excited about watching Tyler be a guy that they can move around. I don't know how much they're going to hand him the ball off, but they're going to do some things to get him in space, maybe some tight end screen, tight end delay. You could see a lot of that they were trying to match up already, and he has been able to handle it because he seems like he has a very, very high football IQ, which helps them put him in a lot of different places early.
Charles, are you still going to do some college football too?
Man, I'm going to do college football as well.
Have you seen your schedule yet at all?
No, I think early on it's SEC heavy. I'm supposed to be in Vanderbilt, Georgia, and I think Mississippi State, but they haven't confirmed everything for me. But I think by next week I'll know where I'll be for those as well.
What do you SEC or Big Ten this season? Which conference is going to be the top conference in college football? We'll start right there.
SEC is doing a lot of chirping, right? And I think rightfully so. They have to do that. But I wouldn't sleep on the Big Ten. They're going to walk quiet with the big stick. And I think those two conferences right now have shown that they've kind of pulled themselves away. I like how the Big Ten coaches were all aligned on what they wanted to do moving forward with 12 or 16. With the SEC, there was a little bit of breaking of the ranks with Drinkowitz, and I think there's some things to be had with both of those commissioners. I think there might be a lot of talk on the outside. I like to see them sit down and kind of come together. But the Big Ten has won the last two national championships. So the SEC has to start saying, like, look, we got to get back. I will say this, don't sleep on LSU this year. They're going to be really, really good. And I think if you look at the Big Ten, Ohio State doesn't drop off much at all. They're going to be a very good team to watch again. And I think Michigan will have something to say about it. But I think Ohio State, right off the bat, will be one of those teams we'll be talking about right away.
And
Illinois is one that I'm really intrigued by. I'm just really intrigued by what they're doing over there in Champaign. I'm really looking forward to kind of watching them play because they have so many people coming back. And that's when Brett Bielema usually does a really good job.
It's funny you mentioned that, too, because I was talking to Phil Steele last week, and he thinks, when IU and Illinois match up, he thinks that, could be to the loser of the team that, well, I should say the winner has the opportunity playoff-wise, and the loser, maybe they look at that as an early season elimination game, which obviously you have a lot of season left, but two teams, I think, that are on kind of an even plane, and certainly one in Bloomington with Curt Cignetti that's coming off, the season of all seasons in football for that squad, that group, and that fan base a year ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's, I don't know if they'll surprise people this year, but I think Curt Cignetti shows you, he can coach. He can coach with the best of them. The guys play hard, and they play fast. So that's why I said this will be a good year to watch and see how this SEC, Big Ten kind of, who's got the biggest opportunity to say we have the most teams and we have all that. All I can say is that the last 2 years the Big Ten has been the champion, and and I think that's the part that I look at and say, well, until you knock the champ off, you can talk all you want, but then you got to do it on the field. And I think that's one of the things that I look for this year. Can Tennessee be strong? Can South Carolina is one of those under-the-radar teams. Don't sleep on Shane Beamer and what he's got with Lenore Sellers. They're going to be good on defense, and they're going to be dang good on offense. So, it's exciting to see the first part of the year when these teams match up against each other or match up ACC, SEC, or ACC Big Ten, because then that gives us a little bit of a gauge as to how teams are going to be and how they're going to play. And I think, you can't sleep on Lane Kiffin. he's going to tell you he's going to beat you and then talk trash about how he beat you if he gets a chance to. So, I wouldn't sleep on any of those SEC schools, but I think the Big Ten has a lot of claim on being the champ for the last 2 years.
Did you do any of the Fernando Mendoza games when he was with Cal?
I did not. I watched film on him. I really like how he plays. I mean, I think he's going to surprise some people with some of the things that he can do. He's seemed to be a pretty tough kid. Some of the time I watched him late night, Cal wasn't looking good as a complete team, but I thought he did a nice job playing the quarterback position. And I wouldn't be shocked now that he'll have an offensive line and, Cignetti always has a strong run game, that he'll be able to prosper in that kind of situation. I think he's going to surprise some people. If you didn't watch much of him, you're going to say, oh, what is this guy about? But when you see him play, he can make all the throws from what I remember, but he's also just a little bit tougher than I think people give him credit for.
Yeah, it's going to be hellaciously interesting in the Big Ten and the Big Ten SEC. Back and forth sometimes pretty good as well, but good to have you. We'll talk a lot over the course of the season about this Colts team. And now, are you going to be a part of the pregame shows as well, too?
I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll be involved with some of that, but I just know I'm calling the game on Sundays and everything else I got to do. I'm sure I'll be involved with you. I'll get back to practices. I'm trying to get back to maybe one or two more fall camp situations. So hopefully we can hook up out there.
I love having you and Rick on. This is going to be great content for the show this season. I appreciate you, man, as always.
All right, man. Have a good one. Good talking to you.
Yeah, Charles Arbuckle's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Yeah, he's going to be a part of Colts broadcast this year. I will say this, and James knows this. I think I've alluded to this before. The Gorman's not going to be a part of this any longer. And I am so going to miss him. He is such a good dude. And I will also tell you this as well, and I would tell anybody over there the same damn thing. They're going to miss him. They will miss him. And you're going to say, well, wait a minute. He did the end-game stuff on the Jumbotron, and he was on the pregame show with you, and you guys constantly went at one another. There was no better dude, and there was nobody more loyal to that brand than the Gorman. And mark my words, you're going to get through half this season and wonder where that is. I mean, you have enough of me out there being critical of this and being critical of that. But he is going to be, to me, a missing voice. You may have liked him, maybe you didn't like him, but man, he was incredible for the brand. And that is going to be missed for them. They may not know it right now, but damn straight, I'm always right about this stuff. That is something that they will find out at some point. Oh, okay. Shout out to the Gorman. I know we went back and forth all the time. I mean, hell, that's how we became acquainted. We became friends because this goes all the way back to a game that the Colts played in Jackson, Mississippi against New Orleans in the preseason years ago. And I made fun of him at the other station because it was like 95 degrees and he looked like he was wearing a fur coat. Wait a minute. Who's this guy with the fur coat? But as much as we went back and forth with one another, we were good friends. And this is not just me standing up for a friend. This is me talking about something that is going to be missing. And this organization is not going to find somebody as knowledgeable and as always upbeat about the brand, regardless of the situation, as you might Jeffrey Gorman. May not realize that right now, but mark my words, sometime you will. Quick one, we'll come back. And a shout out to the Gorman, always a friend of this show. Haras Hoosier Park race of the day coming up in about 15 minutes. Do not go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You lose. Good day, sir.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Mercury Fever tonight, 7 o'clock. That means Eddie Garrison, 6:45, correct? Mercury 16-9, the Fever on the season. 14-12. That is later on tonight. James, when's the last time you sent the Fever something to try to get somebody on this show? Today? Yesterday?
I actually
an hour ago?
I actually just sent something today. Earlier
Did you ask for somebody? Who'd you ask for? Anybody?
I just asked for any player.
Anybody with a stinking heartbeat. How about that?
Pretty much.
How tough can that be? I probably really helped the situation out a great deal, don't I?
I really hope they don't listen every day sometimes.
You know what? It's some crap you better listen to. And I may not be very bright, and I realize that, but there are some things that I know and I know very well. That's one. Very few. I need help in basically every other category. But I haven't been around here for 25 plus years just scratching my rear end here. I have paid attention a little bit. And not just me, I mean for everybody. You just got to make sure you want people. Like I thought the Pacers could have done so much more in getting some of those incredible personalities out there. You guys loved them. I would have had Obi on my show every single stinking day. No, not really. But often. Some of those things I just don't get. Yeah, JMV, I really enjoyed the Gorman's interviews. I enjoyed talking to the Gorman. It didn't sound like it sometimes, but I did a great deal. You just, especially when you're a team that has consistently lived down to expectations, you need a hype person. He's the hype guy. He was the Michael Bivens of the Colts. And he may not be like Ricky Bell or Ralph Tresvant or Big Ron DeVoe or Bobby Brown, but he was the perfect hype man, both in the venue, in the building, and outside the building. Got me pissing and moaning about everything all the time and whining and crying, and then you got his counter, man. It's necessary. I know sometimes you don't want to hear it. I get it. Sometimes you think, well, you call that carrying the water or carrying the flag, whatever. I understand that. But you do need a balance and a dynamic. So I completely, Nick, agree with you on that. I do. JMV, New Galero Spotted Cow, great beer, only in Wisconsin. I'm going to guess Spotted Cow, James. Can you look this up? The caloric intake of Spotted Cow is 130 calories per bottle. 130. I know nobody cares about this. I apologize for being this douchey, but I can't help myself.
What was your guess?
130.
150.
150. I was going to say 150, and I went, there's zero way I'm drinking 150 calories per bottle. Gutshot Greg says, if I'm buying the Labatt Blue Light, I think I pronounce it Labatt's. Is that like saying Kroger's?
Somebody actually called in.
I suck.
And said exactly that same thing. That's
yeah.
Everyone saying Kroger's or all that stuff.
I wondered because I was getting corrected and not corrected in an outwardly fashion by the guy in Edmonton this morning. I kept saying Labatt's Blue. Labatt Blue. So basically what I was doing, I was pulling the Canadian version of Kroger's.
Basically, yeah.
Man. I'm telling you, I'm not that bright. There are some things I do know. Some things that you can count on that I know. That's not one of them. And Gutshot, I've got you with the Labatt Blue. Aaron says, thumbs up. I also like Sleeman. I've never heard of Sleeman before. And Molson as well. I mentioned Molson Golden on the show yesterday. Madison says that's a chipotle type of pronunciation. I can't even mispronounce it right, Madison. Come on. It's tough on me. Haras Hoosier Park Race of the Day coming up. 50 in betting, 50 in dining from Haras Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. Michelob Ultra Limes. I'm telling you, I am in the neighborhood. I'm not going to go over $1.10 per bottle. So I draw the line right there at Labatt Blue Light. Seriously, though, the superior light beers or the ultra light beers, if you go 90 calories, it's like yellow water. Isn't it, James? What's it missing? Kind of like yellow water. The one thing I do notice is I can drink a lot of them and it has no effect other than me having to go urinate 1,000 times.
So it sounds like it's missing both flavor and the alcohol.
Actually, I like Mick Ultra a great deal, and I like Modelo Oro a great deal.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know if maybe I just don't get, maybe I'm settling on the flavor a little bit, though.
That could be it. I mean, all you eat anyway
but
is
it goes
tuna.
right through me. I mean, this is like, seriously. I think it goes directly from my throat right to my, and right out.
I mean, all you eat anyway is cottage cheese and tuna,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, there's no stopper. I don't know if I got anything that's sponging it up or anything anymore or what. My filtration system may need upgraded.
We need to work a little bit of bread in there, just a little bit.
I think so. I don't have much of a filtration system at 55 right here. Thank you. Hey, I'm back hooping though, everybody. I wear a boot now. I think I just put a boot on just for the hell of it. But I'm back hooping and feeling good. All right, here it comes. 50 in betting, 50 in dining. Hopefully you have a horse. The Haras Hoosier Park Race of the Day for this Wednesday. James, are you ready to go? Let's do it now.
Guess not.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, your Haras Hoosier Park race of the day. James has sent me the information, and Jason Chambers is the winner. It's My Story. The winning horse paid $7.60 on a $2 bet. The $2 exacta payout was $23.20. 50-cent trifecta went for $14.20. That is your Haras Hoosier Park race of the day. We'll do it again tomorrow. 50 in betting, 50 in dining, Haras Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. It is in Anderson. Hey, Richard did send me this. I took the 50 in betting and turned it into 62.50, brother. Well done. Had it at 82 at one point. The last race I stayed. I bet 6 and the 3 horse, and it went 1 and 2, but it ended up going 1 and 3. Would have paid $16.90. Richard used his 50 in betting to get a little bit more money. Richard's also, I believe, the guy that came up with the JMV song that I play, which I love. I haven't played it in a while in the JMV Takeover. You still have that in there, too?
I'm sure I have it somewhere.
It's outstanding. I've been actually going back and forth with Rick Venturi right now. I think we're going to get a lot more of Rick Venturi this season on the pregame show. Holy hell, I love Rick Venturi. I just said, hey, we need a lot more of Rick Venturi on this show, too. Need to solidify my knuckleheadery with somebody that knows. Can't wait for that. Hey, tomorrow we're going to be live in Westfield at Colts camp. I know it is a night practice. DeForest Buckner at 4:30. Hopefully I see everybody up there. It'll be one hellaciously awesome time. So Matt Goins of AAA, that's the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. I want to give this more of an opportunity. Plus, I kind of want to figure this out a little bit more instead of doing this on the fly. James, Matt Goins is the president of AAA. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Big-time partners with the show. They want to give away a pair of Colts tickets to a game this season. I want to make sure we give this the amount of love that it deserves. So you want to try to do this while we're up there tomorrow? Would that make sense?
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I'll get with Matt. We'll figure out a really good way that, because we haven't given away anything this week, right?
Nope, nothing.
Which is very uncharacteristic for this show. So how about we give away some Colts tickets tomorrow while I'm at Colts camp? Not live there, but over the air here. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I think that works out great. Become a AAA member today. We say that all the time. There are so many perks. You look in the month of August at Ruoff Music Center, for example, you get so many perks, including the Premier Lounge with AAA there, early entry. But the schedule for the summer ramps up like nobody's business. I'm assuming we're all going to go see Toto, Men at Work, and Christopher Cross next week. Now, this comes because my son Blake is a big-time EDM fan. You know who Rufus DeSoul?
I have never heard of that
Play
person.
something from Rufus DeSoul for me over there. I believe Rufus DeSoul is a big EDM artist. That is, I want to say Sunday at Ruoff. So is this the EDM category on your Spotify right there?
This is, Rufus DeSoul.
What song you got there?
Inner Bloom.
Inner Bloom. I've never heard of that thing before.
Off the album Bloom, it looks like.
Now, I have heard like Afrojack. You know who Afrojack is?
I've heard the name, yeah.
I think I played When I Got High or something like that on the JMV Takeover once.
Oh, Afro Man?
Afro Man. No, Afrojack and Afro Man are different, aren't they?
I think so, yeah.
Yes. Afro Man is when that's played on the JMV Takeover before.
Yeah, that's a classic
I don't know
song.
if Afrojack has ever played.
I'm going to skip forward a little bit, see if it...
Yeah,
there we go.
This sounds like a funeral. That's Rufus DeSoul.
It's kind of lo-fi.
It does. I'm assuming it's all kind of different, right?
Yeah.
See, I've only seen in a live show the really loud and obnoxious EDM stuff.
So like Skrillex
like
or...
Wooly.
Yeah.
I got to see Wooly. And I don't even know if it gets more obnoxious and loud than that. I think Keizo was another one I've seen. I think Keizo's coming back. Daniel Butler told me Keizo's coming back to the Mirror in the fall.
I wonder, I am curious to see who is louder in terms of their concerts, EDM artists or metal artists, like Lamb of God or something like that.
Man, EDM artists are pretty loud.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, that was that show in the Mirror, and the guy called me Pops in the line to pee.
I'm sure you love that.
Yeah, it's all right. I guess I am kind of 55 Pops.
You're getting to that point.
Yeah. But it was all right. No, that'll be fun. Rufus the Soul, I know Billy Idol and Joan Jett will be coming up as well. You got a lot more country acts. And the point I was trying to make, AAA, you get great perks as a AAA member. To Ruoff, Symphony on the Prairie still has a lot of great weekend nights on the horizon. And then, of course, with the Indians, too. There's some great stuff. You really do have it. That is AAA membership. So we'll give away, along with Matt Goins, the AAA president, a pair of Colts tickets coming up tomorrow, as we shall be live at Colts camp coming up tomorrow. Sounds good. Afternoon baseball today. Cubs fans are very happy. They get a win in Milwaukee. 10-3 was the final. I know Michael Busch had a home run for the Cubs. 10 runs they put on the board against the Brewers, and they get one in that series. The Reds are going to try to do the same later on tonight. Reds host the Dodgers. Ohtani is on the bump for the Dodgers tonight. That is a 7-10 start, I should say. And games already underway this afternoon, including the Cubs game that I talked about, that one in Milwaukee. Phillies and White Sox from Chicago just underway, no score. Top of 9, Pirates, Giants, and San Fran even at a run apiece, and the Mets and the Padres, bottom of the 6th inning. Padres 4-0 over the Mets there. And other afternoon affairs, you had Blue Jays 9, Orioles 8, Tigers 7-2 over the Diamondbacks. The Red Sox a winner 13-1 over the Twins. And it took 10, but the Royals scratch across a run. They beat the Braves 1-0. Astros 9, Nationals 1. All those games earlier today on the schedule. Are you playing the music in the background? See, I can't even hear it.
You can't hear that
I cannot hear that.
Wow.
That's something here. This is not just my lack of hearing. But I could hear it yesterday. It's something over here. So you're giving me the 30-second? Yeah, thank you. I could not hear it until just now. All right, WNBA tonight. Fever hosting the Mercury. Eddie Garrison's got your coverage right here coming up later on tonight. 6:45, 7 o'clock, that tip time from the field house. Westfield, Grand Park, Colts camp with us tomorrow. DeForest Buckner's on the show. I cannot wait to see you. We start at 3. Have a great night.